Nearly half a century has passed since the publication of Dr. Raymond Moody's groundbreaking book, Life After Life, which introduced into the cultural lexicon a new term, the near-death experience, or NDE. Over the subsequent decades, exhaustive research into near-death testimonies has established the common characteristics of the experience, including the perception of leaving one's body, encountering departed loved ones, experiencing inexpressible feelings of unconditional love, and a sense of complete oneness with all of life. One of the most fascinating aspects of near-death accounts is the fairly common claim that the circumstances of one's life are planned prior to one's physical incarnation. This includes the familial and cultural conditions into which one is born, and the relationships into which we enter with other human beings. In these descriptions of pre-birth planning, another term that is sometimes introduced is the soul contract, which describes a kind of karmic agreement between individuals, which may serve to provide opportunities for healing, forgiveness, and spiritual evolution. It's important to note that many NDE researchers have concluded that overwhelmingly, the experience tends not to conform to the descriptions of the afterlife offered by the world's religions. This includes the notion that one will encounter the so-called judgment of God at the end of one's earthly life. However, this is not to say that near-death experiencers describe a cosmology where a human being's choices do not carry consequences. Perhaps the most famous aspect of the near-death experience is the so-called life review, where one relives many of the critical moments in the course of one's earthly life. Intriguingly, many have described the subjective experience of, quote, becoming every person they've met, literally thinking the other's thoughts and feeling their feelings. Again, with virtually one voice, near-death experiencers have affirmed that no aspect of the NDE involves condemnation or punishment. Rather, as the illusion of separateness dissolves, individuals cease to perceive themselves as contracted, limited, isolated beings. This opens the door to a directness of communication that is simply not possible in earthly life, as we live under the governance of the brain, body, and ego mechanisms. I've been reading about NDEs for over 30 years. My first interview of a near-death experiencer came with my discussion with Betty Guadagno, a trauma survivor who had a near-death-like experience after a drug overdose. The following excerpt from Betty's discussion offers one of the most compelling accounts I've heard on the subject of soul contracts and pre-birth planning.
I found myself in front of a table of beings, and they didn't tell me who they were, but they didn't have to, because I knew that they were people in charge. And they had this big, huge book, and they were thumbing through it very casually, and they were telling me, it's nice to see you. You're not here to stay. You're only here for information. And, I have no idea what's going on, but I'm just going with it. And they're telling me that I can't stay. And I'm like, but I just got here, and I definitely want to stay because it feels awesome here. Where I just came from, much less awesome. Here, amazing. I'm staying. And they were like, no. You have a lot you still have to do. You're on your way back, but you're here for information. And so then they took me through the details of my pre-birth plan. It looked like I was in a grocery store, and lining the walls of the grocery store aisles were these gigantic cereal boxes. And every cereal box had a life experience on it. And I just started filling up this empty grocery cart with every box that I could get my figurative hands on. There are no physical hands there. And I just start grabbing everything. And the one thing that really sticks out for me that I think is important to share about is that I chose the life experience of childhood sexual trauma. Now, you can't ask me as a human why I would do that, because my human does not understand, but I trust that my spirit knows. And when I picked the cereal box, a little orb of light came out with the box. And that orb of light was the soul of the man who would molest me as a small child. And I saw the reasons why we came into contract with each other. And one of the main reasons was that in a previous lifetime, I had been his abuser in the same capacity. And so in this lifetime, we were balancing the energies with each other. And, being downloaded with my pre-birth plan, it broke me out of victim mentality in that moment. It was as if I could perceive 2 tons of bondage and chains and baggage and garbage just floating off of my spirit, no longer needed. I was living in a different awareness. I had new information. And I was so thankful. And I found myself back in front of the table of beings, just completely overwhelmed with gratitude.
While such an account may understandably sound incredible to some, I suggest that the viewer consider a remarkable point. A commonality seen among near-death experiencers is the overwhelmingly positive, transformative impact the event seems to have on the individual's life. I don't think I've ever seen a more striking demonstration of this fact than in Betty's case, as her life had been on the brink of total collapse after 2 decades of active addiction. Since her spiritually transformative experience, over a period of years, she has grown into a compassionate and influential force in the arenas of addiction recovery and spiritual community. Such profound transformations only seem possible in light of the experiential discovery of the unassailable unity and oneness that connects all life in the universe.
In a tiny makeshift home in the woods of Colorado lived a man whose mind had long ago escaped. His name he did not know, and his past was long forgotten, yet he lived his life in sight of heaven's gates. Each day he woke alone, and his state was constant struggle, seeking sustenance in endless aching need. Though his body often hurt, and he grew too weak to forage, his spirit soared in plains of boundless peace. He strolled unhaunted day to night, no furrow to his brow. His past and future burned in light of heaven's always now. Yet he longed so greatly in his heart for something not revealed. He somehow knew, though not in hell, his soul had not been healed. As the years fell off the clock, and in solitude he floundered, a prayer arose from deep within his soul. What it was he could not name, yet its taste was quite familiar, and its worth was 10 times more than tons of gold. In golden light one nameless day he saw approaching slow, a silent man in blazing orange, his purpose there unknown. He felt erupt inside his soul a feeling he'd forgot, a memory so buried deep, a treasure never lost. A smile crept unbidden on his cracked and bleeding lips. He raised his hand in friendly call, in silent welcome bliss. The shot rang out, a brutal crack of thunder booming hell. In frozen shock by karmic right, a joyous human fell. The orangish man approached the Christ and offered earnest aid. Ourself, the human, losing life yet gaining karma paid. The dying person laughed at death in joyous sighing moans, and whispered soft in velvet voice, "Oh my God, I am home." At heaven's gates the spirit freed beheld in wondrous sight the memories of past lives lived in soft, forgiving light. He saw and felt a tangled web of infinite effects, and bowed before the karmic tree in reverent respect. Fast and sure became the man whose hand had struck him dead, and knew at once 1,000 times he'd done the same instead. In brilliant light of unbound love his soul forgave them both, a friendship forged in gentle flame by heaven's holy oath. The circle closed. We are home.